Alright, after a short break, I have returned and we will go down the list. I'll take a last second to admire the containers, and I think I may, in the not too distant future actually try and put something together on my own that resembles something like this. I'm actually thinking of also making my own Senate board. And I think it's a reasonably entertaining game, and I think I may know, or at least have a means of properly determining the original rules. And on another video I might talk about that. But let's go down the list of things to do, things to discover. We've just scratched the surface of the pyramids. And this one will be about Sneferu. Now, Sneferu, he was quite the builder. He is heralded by some Egyptologists as the best pharaoh in the earlier dynasties, Old Kingdom. I am going to see if I can get my display working, because at the moment it does not seem to be behaving very well. There we go. I've got the feed, but I do not have, oh, for Pete's sake. I beg your pardon, anyone who is watching. I have to make some preparations. There's way too big of a delay. I don't know why this is behaving the way it is. So I apologize for the delay. I think in less than a minute things will go. It says it's live. I may have internet issues. Actually, because things do crash often. I think I will restart this because there's a bad sync problem on my end. Wait a minute, I think I saw something. What do you think of that? Gee whiz. Alright. I think things will be a go shortly. Hey, okay, now I can see ya. But now I need to get my phone to cooperate. There we go. There may be a bit of a delay, but I think we're good. Sorry about that. This is all about Sneferu, and that the Sneferu's pyramids are the ones that my doing.
Welcome to Sneferu's first pyramid.
Not to be confused with Sneferu.
With the long reign of Sneferu, the first king of the Fourth Dynasty, the most brilliant and creative period began for the construction of funerary monuments in Egypt. Funerary monument design moved from the step pyramid to the smooth-faced pyramid, testament to the evolution of the practices of construction. The first attempt at this design was the Pyramid of Meidum.
It's weird when you hear professors or various people say things in a different way. You have college professors that mispronounce things or have their own ways of saying things, and I hate some of them. You know, to me it's Tutankhamun, not Tutankhamen.
While Sneferu's monument started as a 7-stepped pyramid, it was later altered into an 8-stepped structure. The final phase of construction saw the steps filled out and an outer casing applied to achieve a smooth surface.
I'm having serious frame rate issues, so if you would, let me know what you think. If it looks fine on your end, cool, but it seems extra bad right now.
The smooth dressing of the walls did not provide sufficient bonding, however, and the outer casing did not rest on sound foundations. As a result, the bases of the 4 outer buttress walls gave way, causing the walls to slide down and collapse. While the Meidum Pyramid was abandoned due to design flaws, it showcased other innovations that would impact all future pyramid designs. As well as the smooth sides, it was the first time a ceremonial pavement was built, leading from the valley to the temple of the pyramid. Another innovation was that of the funerary chamber, which was no longer at the bottom of a well, but rather above ground level. This change signaled the beginning of the 3-bedroom system.
Next on the menu, and man, I'm having serious frame rate issues. The Bent Pyramid of Dashur. I don't know for sure if they all had underground wells, but I think so.
Welcome to the Bent Pyramid of Dashur. After the construction of the Meidum Pyramid failed, Sneferu transferred his residence and the official necropolis to Dashur. There he began construction on his second attempt at a funerary monument. The resulting structure, known as the Bent Pyramid, is the only one of its shape in Egypt.
And the reason why Egyptologists like Bob Breyer love Sneferu so much is that he's considered to be the pyramid builder as far as pharaohs go. So he kept at it. The Bent Pyramid's an impressive structure, but structurally, I guess it's not considered a success.
Though the pyramid also proved unstable and was abandoned, it marked a technical and architectural breakthrough. Heralding an important design transition, the Bent Pyramid displays a shift from the step pyramid to a functional smooth-sided pyramid.
Keep forgetting I'm not playing a game mode where I need to worry about sound or something creeping up to me.
The bent pyramid was unique in having two separate entrances, one on the northern face and another on the western face. The chamber of this pyramid was too small for a human burial. It was probably meant for the burial of a statue designated to house the Ka, the vital spirit of the deceased king.
Let's see. Wait, so this is the only... Oh yeah, it's the only one. Yeah, it was, and you can kind of see like an evolution partway through the construction, but yeah, it's still an impressive structure, but it wasn't a success. Let's hoof it a little bit for this part.
With the bent pyramid, architects successfully experimented with a completely new idea: to build the pyramid with a core of huge stones settled on a progressive horizontal design. This way, each construction phase could be completed in a single stage, allowing the architect complete control over every design element. Unfortunately, these precautions did not prevent sagging or cracks in the interior rooms of the pyramid. Sneferu abandoned the monument and began the construction of yet another pyramid.
The Red Pyramid. I think that was Sneferu's last one. And I don't think they called it the Red Pyramid. I think it was named that by archaeologists.
Welcome to the Red Pyramid of Dashur.
Hold on. I can't deal. I'm gonna put the resolution modifier to 100%. Because this is giving me a headache. Oh, that's so much better. I can play it just fine while not streaming at 200%, but with the streaming, you shouldn't notice much of a difference on your end.
The Red Pyramid was built 2 kilometers to the north of the Bent Pyramid. It was so named due to the reddish limestone used in its construction. The Red Pyramid reached a height of 105 meters. While the ground level of the Red Pyramid is lower than that of the Bent Pyramid, its height is virtually the same. The task of making the pyramid a geometrical, true flat-face pyramid brought about yet another new design concept: the use of casing blocks.
Well, they've got places to go, people to see. Nothing like a pleasant stroll in the desert. You haven't lived until you've had sand get in your eyes and your ears. It's the best. Yeah, it can spook you. When I play Odyssey, there's a lot of noisy elk or deer. And if you startle them, you're going through a forest at night and you, ho. Yep. Put a piece of coal up there, you got a diamond if you play long enough. That's what fear does to you. And this is a real test of patience, isn't it?
The descending corridor of the pyramid, which opens to the north, arrives at ground level, where two almost identical spectacular chambers with high ceilings are aligned north to south and connected by a short horizontal passage. In the south wall of the second chamber, accessed by a staircase, another corridor leads to the final chamber, which is built within the masonry of the pyramid itself and aligned east to west.
I don't know if you can see a smoothness difference, but boy, it's a lot smoother on my end. Consequently, it's much more pleasant to see.
The annexes of the Red Pyramid consist of a small funerary temple located to the east. A causeway presumably ran due east from the temple, but it has yet to be excavated.
Pure magic.
You summon your steed with the command.
Älä pame.
The final stop.
The Red Pyramid was structurally sound, and once finished, marked a remarkable design milestone. Finally successful in his attempts to build himself a suitable funerary monument, Sneferu knew his future beyond death was assured.
Yep, so he could die happy, I guess. Because a bunch of people kill themselves to make something so grand.
Amen.
I don't know if it can be done on this one, but there's these things are not easy to climb because you need things that you can get toe holds and oh, don't you dare, you little... Phew. Sorry. About lost my temper a little bit. Nothing terribly unusual. I'm quite psychotic anyway. Oh, don't you... Oof. Ta-da! There's only one thing to do once you get to the top of here. You got put in a timeout. I didn't put you in there. Oh, probably because you were typing so fast. You were... Yeah. if you type too much, I ought to make your mod, Sue. I need to find out how to do that. Make your mod to, well, anyways, what I was going to allude to is there's only one thing to do once you do that. Oh, that's not it. Hold on. We're going to redo this. Nah, don't. Are you kidding me? Aw, dude. What a pain in the... What a fail. I wanted to slide down the whole thing. Well, screw that. No, just I wanted to slide.
Caca.
Middle Kingdom pyramids. Now, Kingdom... Well, we'll see. I was a little bit less impressed with some of the Middle Kingdom ones. Like I said, it was like going from building a Porsche to a Model T.
Welcome to Pyramids of the Middle Kingdom.
And let's see, maybe we can change characters for this one. Oh yeah, she wouldn't dare use that horse. She has to have something nicer. Only this horse will suffice for Cleopatra. I don't think it was climbable back in the day.
During the Middle Kingdom era, the powerful rulers of the 12th dynasty resumed the tradition of elaborate pyramidal tombs. For example, Amenemhat I built a funerary complex in Lisht, and Senusret II selected the Elahun site in the Fayum. Amenemhat II and Sesostris III, however, cast their favor towards Dashur. Amenemhat III built a pyramid there as well before moving to Hawara in the Fayum.
I'm just thinking that, for whatever reason, I was thinking about the original builder, not the people that might have been able to do that after they'd gotten a proper toehold. You can't take a flying leap.
Can't take a flying leap.
Come on. Don't be such a horse.
Whoa.
The plundering of tombs in troubled times prompted the architects of the Middle Kingdom to devise increasingly complicated means of security during construction. As such, while the architectural plans of the Hawara pyramid were simpler than the one at Dashur, the means used to protect it from looters were much more elaborate. Beyond the use of blind passages and concealed trapdoors, the architects relied on a system of stone slabs, which were slid into place at the end of construction. These massive stone slabs were meant to permanently block the passageways leading to the funerary chambers.
They really made her... They kind of upped her looks a bit too much. I think she should have had the...
The kings of the 13th dynasty began building their pyramids at Masguna, south of Dashur, then moved on to Fayum and Abydos. The kings of the 17th dynasty, however, satisfied themselves with crowning their cave tombs with small pyramids of raw brick. The kings of the 18th dynasty gave up the shape of the pyramid as a royal tomb entirely. They chose a mountain with a pyramidal shape in the Valley of Kings and dug their graves there.
Huh. I actually didn't. I'm probably not going to absorb that because I didn't properly pay attention, but I didn't really know that before. And I'm gonna do this thing where I don't use a horse anymore. Just occurred to me, I don't know what Cleo is. I think it might be Glorious, but Patra is father, so it's like Glorious from the father or something, or... Uh-oh. Nope. They're not, and I need to check my dashboard. Because I bet you they're going through there. Yep. That's... You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change views. Because I'm no longer getting chats live on my phone. Oh, I saw the Sawi thing now. Whoa! Now I'm getting more. So, they would love to do the whole sacrifice yourself for my... Oh, yeah. Well, well, you know, it's possible also that in the super old days, when the pharaoh died, that his entire cabinet or entourage went with him. Which, you know, while the pharaoh was alive, it would be great to work for him, but that whole price paid after the fact seems a bit less than savory. But I think it didn't take too long for those practices to change. I can see why they would be very unpopular, truth be told. And I'm going to make an adjustment here. And yeah, I may have to do an Alt-Tab to look. But they're going through now, and thanks for contacting me or pinging me so I could see it better.
It was not until the Nubian pharaohs of the 25th dynasty that kings were once again buried under pyramidal tombs. In fact, today, the area of ancient Nubia, modern Sudan, contains a record number of 220 known pyramids to Egypt's 138. Despite their slow decline in use and quality, pyramids continued to fascinate all and sundry up to the Roman era. They remain to this day a symbol of the religious dedication of the pharaohs and the grandeur of ancient Egypt.
That's quite a legacy. And I like those. I'm going to go back to that. I don't know what kind of trees these are, but I like the way they look. I really don't know what kind they are. And it's be easy enough to find it, but I don't... Doing something instructional, I don't like admitting something quite like that, but I'm going to find out what kind of tree that is. All right. Further down the line. We're going to... Let's see what's next on the menu. An overview of the Giza Necropolis. That one might be interesting. Necropolis basically means city of the dead, so it's like a funeral complex. But yeah, they should have totally given her an... I don't consider aquiline noses unattractive, but they gave her a total, like, plastic surgeon nose. All of the Ptolemies had aquiline noses. I'm going to switch characters, actually. I'll take a look at these figurines, or statuettes rather, not a figurine. Alright, well, I'll get on with the educational tour, but this is a lovely place to get lost. I love just listening to these guys. Sometimes
My
strike a
kingdom
different.
for a glass of water?
They don't have an infinite number of songs, but they have a variety enough to keep it from getting overly repetitive. Yeah, they do. Come here, kitty.
Welcome to an overview of the Giza necropolis.
Still got our furry friend.
The Giza Plateau is located on the west bank of the Nile and was considered by ancient Egyptians as the domain of the dead. The pyramidal complexes found there were built over the span of 3 generations, during the reign of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure.
Some people call it Menkaure, some people call it Menkaure, and I don't know for sure. But when you hear people call things differently, and those are definitely jerks. No, those are bandits. Still jerks. I am sorely tempted to change to a different cast member, but if you want to see Cleopatra a little bit longer, I'll keep it up. No pun intended.
The Giza area, now famous for its 3 pyramids, is part of a wider grouping of funerary complexes. Rulers from this period generally elected to be buried in the area. The focal point of the entire region was the city of Memphis, chosen as the capital of Egypt at the beginning of the Old Kingdom.
This game has a similar effect for me. Couple that with a nice cup of Pink Lotus herbal tea. It's even cooler. Well, that little guy's following us onto the heat.
The placement of the Giza monuments, and particularly that of the pyramids, followed a practical yet strict alignment. First, they focused on cardinal points, and then they accounted for the natural geology of the plateau.
Good stuff. Look at her. From a, I guess, a top view and this view. 19th century drawing. Wow, look at that. 19th century using presumably mathematics to do this. They did not have, this was not done via balloon. I can assure you that. That is really, to get an aerial view like that, or a depiction, that's very impressive. I wonder when the artist did that. They do have sales every now and again where you can get it comparatively dirt cheap. Well, but I'll keep tabs for you. I've seen it for like $12 here and there. The Riddles of the Sphinx. Yeah, I thought that was quite remarkable. Demonetized. I want to see what other cast of characters we have. I'm going to try. Let's give Julius Caesar a tour. You can find kitties in towns. But yeah, this starts. I thought they picked a pretty decent 3D model for him.
Welcome to The Riddles of the Sphinx. A sphinx was originally meant to be a personification of the king. The human head, wearing pharaonic regalia, was fused with the body of a lion, thus sharing the qualities the powerful animal possessed, namely its power, the swiftness of its attack, and its majestic authority. By these very virtues, it was also considered a symbol of protection. Unsurprisingly, statues of sphinxes could be found along the Dromus, protectors of the path taken by the gods to reach the temples.
Hey, looky here. Hey, buddy. Hey, little guy. It's hot, isn't it? This is not comfy. I know Bayek can pet him, but I don't think you can interact with him. Oh, you look at that. I'll be darned. I like cats, but my sweetie pie isn't so partial to them. I was wondering why they weren't doing it before when I would kneel by them. They preen and everything. trying to get the show back on the road, but I thought that was pretty cute. I'm glad it
Over the
gave you a
centuries,
smile.
enthusiasts and historians alike have wondered, who built the Sphinx? For what purpose? And who does it represent? These questions remain unanswered. Several theories do exist, however, some more credible than others. One theory supposes that Djedefre chose to pay homage to his father Khufu by building the Great Sphinx of Giza. The stone temple on the eastern face of the Sphinx would have been added later on by his brother and successor, Khafre, in order to strengthen the divine worship of their father. It would be the first Egyptian temple oriented with the sun.
Hope the little guy follows us. There you go.
Another theory suggests that the Sphinx was built by Khafre and was meant to represent him. The arguments to support this hypothesis are based on the fact that the limestone beds used for the main work of the Temple of the Sphinx are geographically and architecturally similar to the Valley Temple of Khafre. Some believe that Khufu himself built the Sphinx, which was later finished under his successors, Djedefre and Khafre. These arguments are based on the stylistics of the engraving, the typology of the nemes, and the absence of a beard at the time of construction.
The absence of a beard at the time of... No, it originally had a beard. Oh, did they build something in front of it and then put the beard on? Have it rest on that? Oops, okay, maybe. Or it's gone now. I mean, I think... Well... It had a nose at this time, but I think it was in the 1400s. A Sufi Muslim that didn't like the attention it was getting vandalized, didn't he? Paid for it with his life.
While ancient Egypt as a whole leaves a rather monochrome vision of its monuments and statuary, it is vital to understand that in ancient times, absolutely everything was painted. The sun, eating away at the pigments of the colors, the sand, the climate, and the implacable impact of time, unfortunately destroyed the glorious colors of the Sphinx of Giza. Documents from an Arab Egyptologist of the 12th century, Abd al-Latif al-Baghdadi, indicate that traces of red were still visible in his time. Today, however, the only color that remains are traces of red close to the ears of the Sphinx, as well as hints of blue and yellow on the nemes, traditional colors for that type of headdress. The pigments for the color red were man-made, obtained by mixing different products such as clay, quartz sand, and very finely crushed hematite. Red had a strong symbolism in ancient Egypt. It was both the color of life and the color of death. It could represent the sands of the desert or the brilliance of the sun. Red was also associated with the god Seth, vengeful and destructive. The Egyptian word for red, Deshur, is also the word which was used to signify the desert, or the royal crown of Lower Egypt. In art, red was also the color used to paint the bodies of men. while yellow was used for women. It is possible that there were also color restoration efforts during the Saite period about 600 years before Cleopatra's rule, as indicated by notes on the Inventory Stele, discovered in 1858 by Auguste Mariette. It is because of this that the team made the decision to display it with its full range of colors, even though the Sphinx's colors would have likely faded by Cleopatra's time.
And I've heard this thing pronounced Stele and Stella. But just to give you an idea of what a Stella or Stele is, or Stele or Stella, I need to find a more uniform pronunciation for that, but I was always calling it a Stella. That thing right there. And guess what it's made of? I'll let you take a stab at it. That's pretty decent detail. And yeah, you're right. The harsh conditions, it's a wonder thing wouldn't have gotten messed up worse. And guess what kind of granite? The only granite that they like to use. Uh-oh, I got stuck. You are absolutely correct. It's granite.
Dating from the 4th dynasty, approximately 2600 to 2500 BCE, the Great Sphinx of Giza is the oldest and largest sphinx that we know of. Carved from a natural limestone outcrop, the Sphinx measures 19.8 meters in height, 73.2 meters in length, and 14 meters in width.
They got granite from Aswan. It's always Aswan granite. So if you ever talk to your friends and they talk about something being ancient Egyptian and granite, yeah, it's Aswan granite. They got it like right at the, I mean, it was far south, like in Upper Egypt. It's so weird that Upper Egypt's in the south and Lower Egypt's in the north. It's something that you have to get used to, and it took a while for me because I always associate north with up. But they got their granite from Aswan, and since acacia wood and these palm trees didn't supply wood that was really that adequate for good furnishings and making of boats, or ships rather, they had to import cedar from Lebanon.
In order to bring polish to the imposing monument, several blocks of limestone were added after the initial construction phase. Since then, there have been numerous attempts at preservation. The polish present in the game integrates some aspects of modern restoration attempts. The team made this choice to present a more iconic version of the Sphinx of Giza to the player. Today, the Sphinx is called the Terrifying One. This appellation is translated from its Arabic name, Abu al-Hol, which in turn was derived from Baluba in Coptic.
Coptic is the closest thing to ancient Egyptian language, but it's mostly a liturgical language.
The Sphinx as a whole was carved in situ from a natural stone promontory. Its head was built in a limestone peak of the Mukattam Plate, and the body was sculpted in the underlying rock layer where it is located. The degradation of the Sphinx is due in particular to wind erosion and the different quality of limestone used in its construction. The level of sodium contained in the groundwater which abuts the stone is also a contributing factor. The natural bedrock is seen through the oblique natural strata of the Sphinx's body that are similar to the surrounding limestone. Since antiquity, people have always believed there was a hidden tomb deep within the Sphinx. It is thought that attempts to plunder the Sphinx began as far back as the First Intermediate period. Since then, numerous attempts to pierce the Sphinx's secrets have been carried out, leaving indelible scars upon the monument.
I hate mother effing people.
12 meters long and cut during pharaonic times, another entrance in the back of the Sphinx aroused curiosity. Although Thutmose IV attempted to seal it off, it was possibly reopened by treasure hunters. It was rediscovered by Howard Vyse and mapped more recently by Mark Lehner. This entrance at the back of the Sphinx leads to different cavities of a few meters each, in directions going inside the statue's body and under the surface. The team has used this opportunity to extrapolate a little more.
There's bits more going on in there, but the tour is out here. Yeah, they're coming through. I'm sorry. I just didn't know. I didn't know what you meant with the down fully. Like into the Sphinx. I don't know how much of that is pure fantasy or... The only thing that... One of the things that I find intriguing about the Sphinx, besides the water erosion, which, like, say for the sake of argument, let's say the water erosion is fully legit, provable, and that this at one point was a statue of a lion made 16,000 years ago. That says, it changes the story of humankind. But what's kind of funny, I appreciate them keeping current with the with what's known for right now. But in this game, they imply a first civilization capable of just the thing that they don't even mention with this. but I still appreciate them doing that, because they have no, other than it being pure speculation, they have no real reason to delve into it like that.
While there have been no major discoveries pertaining to the Sphinx of Giza in recent years, theories and hypotheses continue to emerge. Without validation provided by archaeological sources, however, they remain unsubstantiated.
The ones that remain unsubstantiated that I don't like the most are things like the Egyptologists disagree that it's even possible, so we're not going to accept that data.
The first of the main theories as to the Sphinx of Giza's meaning posits that the Sphinx was originally a massive representation of the god Anubis. Its principal arguments are that the head of the Sphinx is disproportionate compared to the size of its body. The second theory believes that the representation of two sphinxes on the stela of Thutmose IV would indicate that another stone sphinx had existed on the site itself, possibly even in paired symmetry on the other side of the Nile. However, neither of these theories can be verified in any way.
No, and I don't think it's Anubis. I actually think it was a lion before. Or possibly. I shouldn't say I thought it was a lion. I'd say that it's a reasonable presupposition that it was a lion before. And one of the most Egyptian things I could think of that somebody would do would be to put a pharaoh's face on it, get rid of the lion.
Several scientific projects using new technologies have been put in place in the past decades. The most important was led by Mark Lehner and his team, who specialize in the study and survey of the Giza Plateau, including the Sphinx site. The mapping made it possible to see the materials used to construct the Sphinx, analyze the different layers of erosion, and figure out the most fragile areas to protect. After a few attempts at giving the Sphinx artistic proportions, the team instead decided to use photogrammetry mapping to faithfully reproduce the proportions of the Sphinx.
And I love the effort and the care they took to make this. I'm totally enamored with these guys for doing this. They're a Canadian company too, I think. I just absolutely love that.
What the Sphinx of Giza represented during its construction and how the Sphinx was perceived by the Egyptians of the New Kingdom are two very different matters. Originally a representation of the king imbued with the power of the lion, the Sphinx was eventually viewed as a direct representation of the Most Divine. It is theorized that kings of the New Kingdom believed that the Sphinx of Giza was the one who recognized and legitimized the ruler of Egypt. Thus, despite the fact the Sphinx of Giza was partially buried under the sand during his reign, Amenhotep II knew that the monument was of great importance.
And you know, the initial tales of it, there's nothing really spoken of its creation, but more of its discovery or unburying. And the Sphinx telling the guy in a dream, if you remove the sand from me, you'll become Pharaoh. And it's so weird how facial expressions mean different things in this day and age. But one of the things that I've been so impressed with in terms of Egyptian statuary is if you look closely, you'll see an unbelievable amount of symmetry with a lot of it. But the expression of this in contemporary times is, to me, that expression looks almost like colloquially the bitch please. Just, it's just, that's what comes out. But I know it's not like that. I guess it was more of a regal smile. But you can bet that the other side of this figurine looks precisely like that.
Amenhotep II built a second temple dedicated for the Sphinx as Horemakhet to pay homage to Khufu and Khafre, his predecessors. It became a common habit for this dynasty to spend time with their royal courts at the Sphinx. Its sanctuary became known as Setepet, the Chosen.
See the Sphinx on the top. And that is a cartouche. Anytime you see that, there's a royal name in there.
Egyptologist Mark Lehner believed that Amenhotep II built a statue of himself anchored between the paws of the Sphinx, likely to legitimize his reign, alongside a stela found by Salim Hassan. Many other pharaohs of this dynasty, such as Tutankhamun and Ramses II, also left marks of their passage in a similar fashion, sometimes even stripping the stones of nearby temples and pyramids to do so. Amenhotep II's son and successor, Thutmose IV, was a frequent offender.
And they've joked about Ramses II, Ramses the Great being the great chiseler. And yeah, even with stuff his dad made, Seti, he would build these monuments, these pharaonic statues, and he would have chiseled in really deep his name in a cartouche. Basically said, yep, from Ramses. Yep, this is Ramses. Yep, Ramses. He did it on every frickin' thing.
While sleeping between the Sphinx's paws, the future Thutmose IV saw in a dream the god Horemakhet proclaiming his coming accession on the throne of the two lands. This was, of course, on the condition that he remove all of the sand covering the Sphinx, which stood guard as the personification of the god, and should thus never be engulfed by the sands of the desert.
And this still needs periodic unburying.
Hello, kitty.
I don't know if they'll let me pet him again. Sometimes you just gotta be at the precise spot. He looks like he's trying to sneak up on somebody. Win some, lose some, Danny boy. You just lost some.
The 15-ton dream stela built by Thutmose IV to commemorate his dream was discovered by an Italian Egyptologist, Giovanni Battista Caviglia, in 1818, when he undertook the task of freeing the Sphinx from the sand, which had yet again covered it. Caviglia was looking for an entrance into the structure of the Sphinx, but instead he discovered an open-air chapel and stelas between the paws. Ashes from a ceremony were still present. Protected by sand, they quite possibly were from the last ceremonies in Roman times.
Oh, wow. I wonder if Giovanni Caviglia was that strong man. I have to look that up real fast. Giovanni Bolzoni. Yeah, because I think, oh well. I will, it was Giovanni Battista. Alright. Sorry for the rude interruption there, that was ridiculous. And this is just the discovery portion.
That same year, Caviglia discovered fragments of the Sphinx's beard that had probably been added during the New Kingdom. If many of these pieces are held by museums in Cairo, a fragment is displayed at the British Museum, along with a piece of the uraeus that was on the Sphinx's headdress. It is believed this fragment of beard was possibly kept in place thanks to the statue of Amenhotep II, which was supposed to be located under the head of the Sphinx.
I think a big fragment of that beard is at the Royal Museum, and Egypt has requested it back, and it's been said that they probably want to give that beard piece back to Egypt, but they didn't want to set a precedent, because what may follow next would be something like, hey, we want the Rosetta Stone, and the Royal Museum isn't about to give that back to Egypt.
A popular cultural legend purports that the nose of the Sphinx of Giza was lost during the time of Napoleon Bonaparte to the cannon fire of French soldiers in training.
Oh.
However, engravings from before the time of that campaign already depicted the Sphinx without a nose, indicating that it had been removed before the French campaign.
I can tell you this much about Napoleon. First of all, he had a great reverence for these people and Alexander the Great, but if any of his men would have shot that off with a cannon or done any kind of vandalism like that, he would have executed them on the spot. He would never. And it was actually, it's been recorded in history. I can't remember the guy's name, but it was a Sufi that was really upset about people leaving offerings to the Sphinx, kind of going back to traditional ways. I think it might have been in the 1400s, maybe 1500s, but yeah, he was executed for vandalizing it.
The most plausible hypothesis is based on the research of the German historian Ulrich Harman. During the 1980s, Harman compiled medieval sources written by Arab authors. In doing so, he discovered that the Sphinx was once perceived as a favorable omen, a deity supporting sediment-nurturing floods and crops. Around 1378, a Sufi by the name of Muhammad Sa'im al-Dar could not stand this vision of the monument, and in an iconoclastic act broke the nose of the Sphinx. According to the texts, he was then hanged and burned between the legs of the Sphinx for his crime.
So it was even sooner than that. It was like near the time of the Mongolian conquest. Sorry, I was off by a couple hundred years, wasn't I? Derp. Boy, that was really, I was way off there. Need to pay closer attention to dates. I wonder if they have the translation of that thing. Here lies the statue of the great Khafre, the glorious, the respected one, under the protection of Ra. Memphis and the great cities adore his face and make great offerings to his Ka. One day, as the sun was high, Prince Thutmose traveled here and rested under its shadow. As he dreamed, the great god spoke to him, "Watch me, son, for I am your father. Hora-Makhet Khafre Ra Atum. Examine my body, left for ruined in the like a dying person. The desert that I used to rule now defies me. Before all who live, I will grant you the crown when you have relieved me of my burden." Well, down the list. Khufu Funerary Complex. Now we're getting into the Great Pyramid territory. The Great Pyramids are attributed to Khufu. And yeah, that was a wild theory. But I remember believing it when I was younger. Until I actually read about how Napoleon was. He was awestruck by Egypt when he went there.
Welcome to Khufu's funerary complex.
Time to change characters. Let's bring out Layla Hassan.
The Valley Temple was the first architectural component encountered when one entered the funerary complex. It was considered the official entrance of the tomb and mixed the structural components of both a temple and a portico. Khufu's Valley Temple shows evidence of a basalt pavement, letting us know where the portico portion of the structure was located. Such a partition is believed to symbolize both the subterranean and solar aspects of the afterlife.
A basalt pavement would have been... It would have looked cool. But I'll tell you what, in this kind of weather, which was the weather that existed, I think, at this time, except it might have been a little bit greener. But that would have been hot as hell to walk on. You would need some thick sandals. Basalt is very dark. And yeah, I mean, you would cook walking in there. It'd be a fiery furnace. Although not if it were a nighttime thing.
Khufu's causeway ran from the floodplain up to the plateau, linking together the Valley Temple and the Mortuary Temple. A traditional causeway presented itself as a paved path, enclosed by walls and often roofed.
Wow. Imagine what that would have looked like. That would have looked so impressive. I don't know if you can see this, but it's yellow stars and blue. Yeah. Let's see what her steed looks like.
Fragments discovered by archaeologists indicate that the walls in Khufu's causeway, one of the longest known to us, were decorated with carvings and possibly paint. Depictions show a great variety of themes: stars on the ceiling, accompanied by scenes of battles on the walls. Other engravings depicted the creation of the complex by illustrating craftsmen at work.
I wonder if this reading down Because that's and that could be... That could be or wa. Like I said, they don't use, no, that's like wa. They didn't use vowels, so it's like if you could read it, you knew what it was. But it totally left to interpretation. At least up this high, you get a closer view of the ceiling. This looks like fire tore through there or something.
The most impressive private cemeteries of Giza are located east and west of Khufu's pyramid. The eastern cemetery was reserved for members of the royal family, while the western cemetery was mostly set aside for various court dignitaries. In both areas, private tombs, also known as mastabas, were aligned and laid out methodically in streets and avenues. This arrangement was probably an attempt at recreating the king's court for the afterlife.
And you had to be a big somebody to be entombed next to Khufu. And the Greeks called Khufu Cheops. So anytime you see Cheops, it's still Khufu. I think Khafre is also another word for Khufu.
To the east of Khufu's pyramid reside three smaller constructions, the three Queen's Pyramids. A sloping passage led from the ground surface to a burial chamber, cut out of the bedrock and lined with masonry. If it seems quite certain that these monuments were intended for Queen's burials, the identity of the original occupants is hard to assess.
And no need to apologize ever, really.
The northernmost pyramid was most likely meant for Queen Hetepheres, who was believed to have been Khufu's mother. However, in 1925, her actual tomb was discovered nearby by accident. It was hidden at the bottom of a deep masonry pit in an underground chamber. Within the concealed chamber, Egyptologists discovered the most complete royal funerary equipment, dating from the Old Kingdom, though her body was missing.
I set my brain alight. I'm glad you're enjoying this. I was into Egyptology before playing this. I was about 5 or 6 months into listening obsessively to these lectures. And it even got me playing that Children of the Nile game. And then I saw this, and it had been out for a little while. I was like, "Ooh, I gotta get this game," and it was just on sale. Before I got it, I paid full price, $120 for all the goodies.
Within the vicinity of Khufu's pyramid, Egyptologists have uncovered 7 boat pits. The exact function of such boat-shaped pits remains unconfirmed, though one can easily conjecture that it was symbolic in nature. The boat pits being located at the eastern side of the pyramid, at the precise spot where the resuscitated king was supposed to reappear, could constitute evidence to support such an assumption.
Yeah, I don't have any regrets, honestly. I played this game so much, and I just love chilling here. I love Odyssey too, don't get me wrong. It's got way more content than this. but I always like to come back here. But I wish I could go back even further, like not have the kind of influence. There are plenty of nasty people that needed killing even way back in the day. But they picked a good time period, though, to do what you needed to do with the story, honestly. It's still brilliant. And they really put their hearts into it.
The two southern boat pits, each covered by a roof of huge limestone slabs, were discovered in 1954 by Kamal al-Malak, an Egyptian Egyptologist. Only one of them had been opened. 1,224 boat parts made of cedar wood were retrieved one by one and patiently reassembled by the master restorer Ahmed Youssef. This process took 28 years. Youssef worked by following lines of mortise and tenon joints and by stitching parts together with vegetable ropes, all in order to keep the design as authentic as possible.
And I bet you that thing could float if it were done. They didn't use nails.
The Greek term pyramidion refers to the capstone of a pyramid or the tip of an obelisk. In ancient Egyptian, both components were called benben. This word was also used for a specific kind of food, a cone-shaped offering made of bread. The pyramidion was intended to be a miniature reproduction of the pyramid, making it equal to the monument itself in symbolic importance. A few pyramidia have been retrieved from pyramidal complexes. The earliest, found in Dashur, is undoubtedly a good example of Old Kingdom's pyramidia. It is made of limestone and has no inscriptions. Some engraved pyramidia were recovered from private funerary chapels. Their inscriptions all related to the solar symbolism of the benben. The pyramidia of the pyramids of Giza were never recovered. The reconstitution you see in the game is fictive, incorporating a golden pyramidion bearing inscriptions relevant to Khufu.
It's, yeah, by far the best. There's 3 of them. The great one, and then one slightly less, and then the other one slightly less. More of a showing reverence, but I think it's Khufu and Sun. The secrets of the Great Pyramid. This ought to be interesting. This might be a really good one. Oh yeah. And you know those other ones that we looked at? That was after. You know, those pyramids came later, which is why I was bemoaning, why make a Cadillac and then go back to the Model T? But they did suffer a intermediate period. I mean, Egypt collapsed completely twice, but always came back until the Romans utterly destroyed them.
Welcome to Secrets of the Great Pyramid. Built around 2550 BCE, the Great Pyramid of Giza is considered one of the most iconic structures of Egypt. It is the biggest of the pyramids and the only one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world still standing. The numbers associated to the Great Pyramid of Giza are impressive. A workforce of over 20,000 people, 6 million tons of stone, and 20 years of construction. It was a massive undertaking for a pharaoh's tomb.
I think the land was just a bit greener too. Not a lot though. This place had been a desert for some time.
The construction of the Great Pyramid was also a display of power and opulence on the part of Khufu. It is part of the pharaoh's vast funerary complex, which also includes 2 temples, 3 satellite pyramids, a causeway, and a builder's necropolis. We can guess that the intent behind the construction of these monuments was Khufu's way of declaring himself one of the most powerful pharaohs to rule a unified Egypt. New insights into engineering and ancient Egyptian culture are still being revealed over 4,500 years later. For example, a recently unearthed papyrus offers a glimpse into the life of a tradesman at the time of the pyramid's construction. Also, a logbook belonging to a team leader during the building gives details on the craftsmen, their work schedules, and the raw materials required. It is interesting to note that by Cleopatra's time, the pyramid's celestial purpose, its construction, and the function of its mysterious inner chambers was already unclear. Today, it is only through dedicated research that we have begun to grasp some of the Great Pyramid's mysteries. The Egyptians had polished their design for centuries by the time work on the Great Pyramid began. Intended as a tomb for Khufu, the Great Pyramid's structural design has been considered to be nearly perfect by engineers and historians ever since.
And they could not do any better today.
Precisely oriented north-south to the 4 cardinal points of a compass, the length of each side of the Great Pyramid at its base was 230 meters, and its original height was 147 meters. The pyramid is a mere 0.05% error away from being a perfect square.
0.05%. That's not even 0.5%. That's
In order to achieve the shape of a true pyramid, the design required many considerations in the planning phases as well as precision during execution. It was especially critical that they control the angle of inclination on all sides at every stage of construction.
I've taken a few by here at certain time of the day. One of the things that I have liked to do, just to give an example, some of the shameless stuff I've done, taking pictures, some of my methods. We'll get with the little Boyd. I've done stuff like that. Like, oh, that looks pretty good. Do this. Go there. Increase the saturation. I'll drop the temperature a little. And let's see what happens when I reduce the exposure a little. And then presto. And sometimes I'll experiment. See what happens if I add a bit of vignetting. And I will send those to you straight away. Boom. Incoming. What is that? Oh, palm tree. That's also decent. As is, pretty much good. I'll hit the saturation up on that. Drop the temperature some. I'll bolster the saturation a bit more. I estimate that I've taken about 1,000 pictures. At this point, probably more than that. But you can have so much fun just doing that. Let alone the 150 hours of gameplay, the stories and stuff you can do.
Materials for the Great Pyramid consisted of quarried limestone blocks, weighing between 2 to 15 tons each. The methods of moving these blocks into place is still debated by architects and Egyptologists. The precision of its design in an age with only soft metal tools, as well as the enormous scale of its construction, make the Great Pyramid one of the most impressive feats of human engineering.
Yeah, because these people, I don't even think they've discovered bronze yet. This was done with copper. Supposedly. I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. But these weren't dummies doing this. Excuse me. But Egypt is such a place to get lost in. But I will give props to Odyssey, because it too has amazing things to do.
It's estimated that it took between 600,000 and 2 million blocks of stone to build the Great Pyramid. Experts calculate it would have required men to move 12 blocks every hour around the clock for 20 years to place the 2.3 million stones the monument is made of.
And check that out. How they would quarry stone. And I think one of the ways that they split some of these things would be to put some wood in there and then pour water down there, and the wood would swell. And but can you imagine the almost 2.5 million stones required for that thing? How many of those blocks per hour you'd have to have? That's like what, one every, what is it? What did it say? 12 an hour? For 22 years? Or 20 years? Gosh. That is astounding. Let's see what one of these blocks in relation to a person. And there's granite in this thing. Lots of it. I mean, thousands of tons of granite. Ooh, we're gonna get an inside look.
While the interior chambers were built with red granite from Aswan, most of the pyramid was made from local limestone, weighing between 2 to 15 tons per block. There is debate on how the pyramid stones were moved into place. Recent research is exploring the idea that it was built around a large interior ramp.
Just making sure there isn't further commentary that I've missed. Okay. Look at that.
The recently discovered logbook confirms that the high-quality limestone of the outer casing was brought by boat across the Nile from a quarry in Tura. Once complete, the smooth white polished stone of the Great Pyramid would have reflected the sunlight like a beacon, earning it the name the Horizon of Khufu.
I kind of misunderstood something. I think my memory is kind of poopy. My bad. I didn't mean to misclick.
Over the centuries, thieves and travelers attempted to access the Great Pyramid numerous times. Ancient writings describe details of its interior, proof that some made their way within, though who gained entrance first and when is unknown.
And I kind of misunderstood about what you'd heard. I didn't understand the context of that. Oh. Oh, that's right. They can't get hurt in this mode. Yeah, 'cause I think some of these people that were trying to bust in here, they've gone so far as to try and use... Oh, yeah. Yeah. The aliens... Yep. It's aliens. And you know what? I think there's a... Well, let me get here.
The main entrance of the Great Pyramid is located 17 meters above ground level. It faces north, likely in order to align with the North Star. Though the entrance passageway had been discovered in antiquity, any further access into the Great Pyramid was stopped by massive vertical slabs of rock. As such, present-day visitors to the pyramid must use the robber's entrance.
To me, there's an implied racism behind that. And I don't mean to be hypersensitive to it either. But what gets me is there's also that whole red-haired pharaoh thing.
The robber's entrance is reported to have been opened in the 9th century by Caliph al-Mamun. In search of treasure, the Caliph had his men dig their way inside the Great Pyramid. The most likely scenario is that they enlarged a corridor which had been created by tomb robbers during antiquity. As such, this is how the team can justify access to this wonder.
Hell yeah.
Attempts to gain entry to the Great Pyramid and uncover its potential secrets continued throughout the centuries. In the 19th century, the belief that another entry existed at the south side resulted in a hole being blasted into the pyramid's side, with no results for the damage that was done. While the search is still ongoing today to uncover more hidden rooms and passageways, conservation is the primary concern of all such efforts.
Well, for the time being, that's noble. Well, there's the... Oh, wow, look at that. There's already a ready-made... I didn't know about that. I just wanted to go in and look around. We can hit this tour straight away since we're here. I don't know what you call that, like a wraparound. I'm making a little mountain along the side with dirt to haul them up piece by piece. Cool.
Welcome to the Great Pyramid of Giza, Upper Chambers.
This is probably what's next on the menu anyways. So I didn't even have to go down the... Oh, there's the subterranean chamber and then the upper. Let's do it top to bottom. Let's just do that. Let's just do it. Yeah, we'll come back. But, you know, it could be. There could have been an internal ramp. And I don't know if we'll ever be able to figure it out. Because if... You know what makes these things difficult to learn how they were done? Is that they're completed. If there was another Great Pyramid that was shown as construction had stopped, you know, maybe halfway through, that would tell us so much more. But that's what we've learned from well, we're talking about me, or I'm hoping there's nobody I have on my ignore list typing rubbish on here, but this will be a quickie.
Welcome to the Great Pyramid, Subterranean Chamber. From the original entrance of the Great Pyramid, there is a passage leading to the subterranean chamber. Its walls were carved out of the existing rock of the plateau, and then covered in a fine, unmarked limestone. The descending passage has a steep 26-degree downward slope. Narrow and with a low ceiling, this pathway is long and challenging. While the original passage was 145 meters long, the team reduced its length and made it both wider and higher. The main focus of the work in reproducing the location was centered upon preserving the unique claustrophobic environment of the Great Pyramid, while still allowing for a smooth game navigation.
I can forgive him for that liberty.
The well shaft was a 58-meter vertical passage that connected the descending corridor to the grand gallery above. An adjacent grotto may have originally been a small natural well in the bedrock that was enlarged during the tunneling. Whether the grotto was intended for another purpose is uncertain. There is much speculation over the purpose of the well shaft. One theory is that the channel was cut or enlarged to supply air to workers in the descending passage. Another is that it was meant to provide an exit route once the work was done in the heart of the pyramid. Without the well shaft, workers would have been trapped inside forever when the grand gallery was sealed. The opening at the bottom of the well shaft was most likely sealed by exiting workers to camouflage the passageway. There is a subterranean chamber at the end of the descending corridor, 30 meters below the Giza Plateau surface. Dug directly into the bedrock, the space is wide with a ceiling 3 meters in height. Its floors and walls are rough and uneven, indicating that it was never completed. At the south end of the room, there is another narrow corridor, similar to the others, though it abruptly ends after roughly 20 meters. The chamber also contains an 11-meter pit near the east side. It's unclear what this may have been used for. In the game, this well leads to a fictive underground complex containing key game-related mysteries. The subterranean chamber's original purpose remains a mystery. One popular theory is that it was originally meant to be Khufu's burial chamber, but the pharaoh changed his mind, preferring to be buried higher up in the pyramid, which would explain the chamber's unfinished state.
Oh, yeah, that looks like something you don't want to run into.
Poopy pants.
Yeah, I don't think there's things you can't do in this mode that you can do when you play the game. All right, so let's check up the sexier chambers. This one will be a good one. According to myth, are these pyramids booby-trapped? I don't know. I don't think they really are, but they're not very welcoming to effery. Just by its construction.
Welcome to the Great Pyramid of Giza, Upper Chambers.
Hell yeah.
At the entrance of the ascending passage are 3 granite flagstones estimated to weigh up to 25 tons each. They were used to protect the Great Pyramid from thieves. Undaunted by the granite blocks, the thieves simply dug into the softer limestone around them, thus creating the robber's entrance.
Yeah, granite is hard stuff. I mean, even today it's not something that's just, just cut into that super easy. Although we have the proper tools for it, but it's, when you think of how hard granite is and how heavy and dense, the size of those obelisks that they would quarry out of there, what those guys had to do when they made those obelisks or started cutting them, they had to have the guys dropping heavy diorite balls shoulder to shoulder. Boom, 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 boom. And that had to have, they had to have been breathing in that pink granite dust. And that had to have been a job for prisoners, punish people.
While in reality the robber's entrance is one single cavity which leads to both passages. In the game, the team created individual accesses to either passage. As such, in the game, one entrance leads to the ascending passage, while another leads to the descending passage. The ascending passageway of the Great Pyramid provides a direct path into the Grand Gallery and is accessed 30 meters from the entrance along the descending corridor. Both corridors have similar dimensions and are designed with the same 26-degree incline. The ascending corridor has smooth masonry on its walls, and the layout includes many trapezoidal stones. Both the floor and ceiling of the passageway indicate that the passage was enlarged, possibly during or after the funeral, to allow workers room to move granite blocks meant to plug the corridor.
I was thinking more like lung damage.
The Grand Gallery's purpose is still debated among experts. It may have been intended to align with the stars, act as a buffer to protect the king's chamber, or simply to facilitate the transport of the granite blocks used inside the pyramid. Access to the queen's chamber was at the beginning of the Grand Gallery.
That's kind of funny. Oh, is that S1 granite? No, sorry, that was me. Ole! Which one do I go to next? I've got choices, and I don't like choices, really. Okay, so we go from here, and we sturdily do this. Ole! Okay. Let's get a torch going. And yeah, there's not much a person can do about the view in here. There we go. I'm gonna see if I can take a picture of these webs. LOL.
Though this room is referred to as the Queen's Chamber, it is believed that there was no queen buried here. Based on their knowledge of earlier pyramids, Egyptologists believe it was more likely intended as the king's serdab, a chamber meant to contain the Ka statue, which would in turn house the king's spirit.
That was a starched kilt. That image. Basically, you know, it's a very upper classy thing, but yeah, that, I'm wondering what that black statue is made of, if that's actually basalt or if it's something easier to work with. But that's definitely gold.
Situated exactly within the pyramid's center, on the east-west axis of the pyramid, the chamber has a vaulted ceiling and measures 5.7 by 5.2 meters. In the eastern wall, there is a niche tucked away in a small corbelled archway, which may have originally held the Ka statue. Behind this niche is another smaller hole, possibly dug out by thieves in search of further treasure.
Poop. I don't think there's any getting in there in this mode.
In the 19th century, two shafts were found running through the north and south walls. They each run in a horizontal line for 2 meters before sloping upward, and both are closed off with limestone blocks fitted with copper handles. Whether they were intended as ventilation shafts for workers or a celestial connection for the pharaoh's spirit is unconfirmed. A recent scan of the room indicated the presence of an unknown cavity hidden behind the north face of the walls over the descending corridor. Further investigation is still ongoing to ascertain the nature of the anomaly, so as to avoid risking damage to the monument.
Why is that one glowing like that? Huh? I like seeing satisfying check marks. I'm starting to fade a little bit. My brain power is diminishing. Up we go.
Khufu's architects were possibly influenced by earlier rhomboidal pyramids when designing the gallery. It is the longest corbelled vault ever built, measuring 47 meters long and 8.6 meters high. The walls were made to taper inward, allowing for better distribution of weight. As a result, the ceiling measures just over 1 meter wide at its highest point. Though this construction technique is present in other pyramids, few have the same precision and stability.
Precision and stability. Keywords.
While the space is visually dramatic, the gallery seemed to serve a practical function, though what exactly remains uncertain. Still, the wall design was undoubtedly meant to contribute to the stability of the structure, and its floor may have helped workers move the materials. A channel runs along the middle of the room. A movable floor originally rested in this central recess. The raised benches on either side are equipped with slots that may have been used to help position the granite blocking stones. At the end of the Grand Gallery is the entrance to the antechamber leading to the King's Chamber. Directly above, there is another narrower horizontal passage that connects to the top of the King's Chamber and allow the workers access to the weight relief rooms. The far end of the Grand Gallery leads to a small antechamber with a portcullis, preventing access to the King's Chamber. The portcullis was composed of 3 separate granite slabs. They were designed to be lowered into place and seal the chamber after the burial of the king. The grooves dug out to hold the slabs in place are still clearly visible to this day. The elaborate locking system was composed of a series of grooves for the ropes and pulleys that dropped the stones into place like the notches on a key. For the purposes of the game, the team elected to remove the portcullis slabs in order to grant the player access to the King's Chamber. In reality, workers would have backed out of the room after the funeral, lowering each slab into place behind them one at a time. Each of the 3 stones were smashed by looters centuries later, and evidence of their break-in is still evident.
I would have written that last sentence differently. I wouldn't have said evidence of this is still evident. I'd say evidence of this is still apparent. Jean-Pierre Houdin's theories. Wait a minute. I didn't see a... Ta-da! I guess this is a continuation. Well, no, I don't want to end my current tour, but this rope is saying go there. Oh, maybe, oh. Okay, maybe I missed this one.
The King's Chamber is built entirely out of red granite. The King's Chamber measures 5.8 meters in height. It has an imposing cover of 5 stacked levels above, with granite beams weighing 25 to 40 tons each.
Jeez.
The uppermost level is surmounted by a vault of stones, arranged in chevrons to bear the enormous structural load.
And you know, there's been lots of earthquakes since these pyramids were made. And these things are still standing.
As in the Queen's Chamber, 2 shafts extend out from the room towards the north and south faces of the pyramid. They measure nearly 64 meters until they are blocked by copper-handled granite plugs. Some experts in the culture of the Old Kingdom believe that the shafts were thought to lead the king's soul to the stars, with the incarnation of the pharaoh as the god Ra, represented by the northern well, and the god Horus by the southern well. There is a granite sarcophagus at the west end of the room, but it is the concealed construction inscriptions left by workmen on the roof's stones which verify this as the resting place of Khufu. The sarcophagus was recorded as being empty when it was discovered, and its design indicates that there was once a lid in place. It's possible that this sarcophagus is only a cenotaph in memory of the pharaoh, but was never actually meant to receive the body.
That's an awful small sarcophagus.
Khufu's mummy was never found. It is hoped that as of yet undiscovered hidden rooms and shafts of the pyramid may provide an answer as to its location.
When you think of how uneffing believably huge this pyramid is, how gargantuan this thing is, and how big these granite blocks are, that this sarcophagus would be barely big enough to accommodate that mummy. So I'm thinking the cenotaph thing being a bit more plausible. That's not a big sarcophagus when you're looking at it from a pharaonic point of view. I could barely, because this is a woman. I don't know how small Khufu was. Oh well. No need to dwell on it. There's lots of cool places in this game, but this is neat.
Welcome to Jean-Pierre Houdin's Theories.
Some of these are repeats, but you can't have every idle thing to be completely unique, but I still love looking at them because they are pretty. And those are Ushabti statues, those two red things and possibly the white figurine. Actually, maybe not. Ushabtis, if they are, they're sophisticated, like virtual court. I can't burn the cobwebs in this. Not in the discovery mode, but only in during the actual game. Hey, basalt statues. That's Horus. Absolutely, that's Horus. Yeah, I'll use my torch or even flaming arrows to get rid of cobwebs when I play.
The team wanted to provide players with a sense of exploration and discovery, particularly within the Great Pyramid. As such, a decision was made that the internal design of the monument in the game would reflect Jean-Pierre Houdin's theories. While the antechambers of the King's Tomb have yet to be discovered, Houdin posits that this is merely due to a unique design, placing the Pharaoh's tomb at the center of the pyramid. The entire tour you are about to take was designed along Houdin's hypotheses.
This is just nifty. Alright. I really wish I could burn these webs away. Oh, that is a sarcophagus. Worthy of a pharaoh.
While respecting Houdin's hypothesis as to the general layout of the antechambers, the team wanted the contents to enhance the game experience. In regular royal tombs, the antechambers were filled with all the material goods needed by the pharaoh in the afterlife. To support the feelings of discovery and awe, the art team created a unique and fantastical treasure in this second antechamber.
It is rather fantastical. But I don't mind. I think it's plenty cool. And I don't think Ubisoft realizes how much money they could make selling boxes like these and the ones you get in chests. Now, one thing that would not have been... This is where I'm gonna get super power nerdy. The chariots were introduced to the Egyptians via the conquest of Egypt and collapse by the Hyksos. So inside Khufu's chamber, there would never be, not a chance, there would never be a chariot. It looks awesome, but it's many hundreds of years anachronistic as far as that goes. Just as a bit of trivia. And I gotta take a look at these. I need to learn what that is on the head that sticks up like that. I have to take time to learn what that is. The only thing I know on these hieroglyphs is life. The Ankh, the cross with the loop on the top. And that's an Old Kingdom stele. And I don't think that they put royalty's name in cartouches yet in Khufu's time, but I might be wrong. Although I don't think I am. Figurative boats. I wonder what encouraged the super steep upslope. What purpose it has. If it's just decorative. And I am starting to get a little like I'm here by myself and don't have people actually watching. Or a person actually watching. Yeah, the chariot is inaccurate. I would say that, yeah, it is. It definitely is. Because the Hyksos were the ones who introduced the chariot, and the chariot was the one that was used to carry the pharaohs. So, yeah, it is inaccurate. It definitely is. Because the Hyksos were the ones who introduced the chariot, and the chariot was the one that was used to carry the pharaohs. So, yeah, it is inaccurate. And the Egyptians ran with it. They made chariots of their own. I don't consider it an unforgivable sin. But I also want to know what some of these things actually are. If they're just little... Because, well... Oh well, I've looked at this finery enough, but this was one of the coolest treasure hoards in the game. But yeah, like this, I swear they could market boxes like that. People would eat that up. Myself included.
Houdin theorized that the ascending corridor and the Great Gallery were used by the workers to haul hoist the heavy beams above the king's chamber. He called it the service circuit. The corridor you are in now was created by the team following Houdin's theory and is referred to as the Noble Circuit. It is through this corridor that the wooden sarcophagus containing the pharaoh's mummy would have been transported to its final resting chamber.
Holy.
With this structure in mind, one can easily assume that the pyramid's entrance would have been connected to the two antechambers. Modern research has revealed that a cavity might be located behind the north face chevrons of the pyramid. As such, the team chose to create this area for the player to explore. Here is where Houdin believes that the priests and nobles would have exited the pyramid after the burial ceremony.
Poopy pants.
There we go. I seriously don't have any ill will towards slight anachronisms and discrepancies. It still looks cool. Actually, I'm kind of like, hee hee, but I know that that shouldn't be there yet.
Many theories regarding the construction of the Great Pyramid rely on the usage of external ramps. However, Houdin believes an external ramp would have been too steep for the upper portion of the pyramid. This is why he posits that there were two ramps. An external ramp for about half of the height of the pyramid, which then became an internal ramp for the second half.
I'm going to read that again. You may be onto something, Shada. Because that looks a lot more doable than the coming around the mountain motif. But you could also, once each layer was leveled, you could kind of do it on a progressive scale. But yeah, that's pretty good thinking. And I am no engineer. God, I love how they did this. It's so damn cool. You don't see a bunch of blocks that look the same. So each They look different, all of them. What is that? Just wondering what that spot of light was. Oh no. Did I just screw myself? Okay, good.
Houdet's theory states that this internal ramp followed the sides of the pyramid in an ascending spiral pattern. A notch discovered in the edge of the Great Pyramid, known as Bob's Room, seems to support this theory. Located at the corners of each edge of the pyramid, these large rooms would have allowed workers to turn the stone by 90 degrees, allowing them to continue the ascent. The team chose to create rooms such as this one, bringing Houdet's hypothesis to life.
Bob's Room? Make me think of Bob's Road, the movie Twister. And Bob's your uncle.
This long corridor was the first section of the ascending internal ramp. Through it, the blocks used to build the Great Pyramid would have been carefully moved upward and then turned at each edge of the pyramid in order to continue their ascent. Though the team only created the main ramp for the game, Houdet posits that this ramp had 2 levels, allowing workers to return safely to the bottom thanks to an additional corbelled upper section.
Nice non-creepy howling. I love it.
According to Houdet, the start of the inner ramp was located at the base of the southeastern face of the pyramid. This location would have been the junction point of the external and internal ramps. Below us, workers would have built the lower part of the pyramid with the external ramp before eventually switching to the internal ramp for the middle and upper sections of the pyramid. At that time in the process, they could have reused the material of the external ramp to fill the center of the pyramid, hauling the stones in through the internal ramp.
Been ingenious, but the whole thing is ingenious. Take a look down this list. Coffee. 6 minutes. For an hour, we'd make it take longer. think I'm Bob was here. Bob. That would be a foot, a vulture, and a foot. I don't know how I remember that exactly, but yeah. Foot, vulture, foot. Or more like, that's more like Bab. Might be like that folded arm. Or, derp, derp, derp. Irrelevant right now. Yeah. Bob. I'm thinking it is a good time to, what with it being almost 1 in the morning, and my usual bedtime being about 10:30ish, that perhaps I should sort of go to bed. And I think that would be a grand idea. But it's been cool, and with tomorrow being a Saturday and the weather is going to be nice and poopy, I think that there is plenty of opportunity to continue the adventure. And I'd be delighted to have you tag along while I record these episodes of silliness for posterity. And my pleasure, absolutely my pleasure. And so for the time being, to Shada and all the rest of you who decide to give this a look, fair winds for now, and until next time.